We're back, people. What is up? Another little stream today. Going over the Dolphins versus Ravens, kind of little preview, what to expect from the Thursday night game tonight. And also, going to go over some of like the potential trade rumors that have been talked about, things that happened in the last game of the Dolphins need to kind of carry over that can, I think, help them a lot and sort of continue that sort of success for the rest of the season. Things that they did differently and, just talk about a little more in depth after doing all those film breakdowns this week. Now, I do think, getting the Ravens, honestly, I think if they're playing a lot of other team on the schedule, I would actually feel pretty confident going into this game. Actually, I think the Ravens is the one just like based on them coming off a big win too. They're getting healthy and Lamar is back. So that has me very worried how they would even attempt to stop Lamar. I think the only way they stop Lamar is if Lamar's rusty in his first game back, which I think is probably pretty unlikely. So yeah, I think the defense will have its troubles. I do think the Dolphins offense will definitely actually be able to have a pretty solid game. Ravens defense is healthier, but they still, Matabike is out for the season. I don't they run a lot of man coverage. I actually think this will be a big Waddle game. I don't really see how anyone on the Ravens really can guard Waddle one-on-one, especially as consistently as they run man coverage. Like they're one of the more man-heavy coverage teams in the league, run a lot of cover one. They might put Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey on them, but I don't think either of those guys can do much against Waddle one-on-one, to be honest. So if they give him a lot of one-on-one matchups, I expect to see a lot of shots taken out. Would you commit to the run in the same way as last week? Yeah, I definitely think the run game needs to be there. It definitely needs to be something that you show because that is something that opens up the pass game. It gets you those cover one looks. It gets you those potential shots to Waddle down the field. It gets you those plays where Waddle catches the ball and Strider runs big. So they have to keep the game close. They cannot have one of those games where they go down early. They make a ton of early mistakes and it forces you to pass the ball. They've had that a couple times this season. And that's not how the Dolphins are built. So yeah, I do think they need to commit to the run, even if it's not working super well. I don't think they're going to run all over the Ravens. But I think for the offense to be consistent, they have to get in those third and manageables, and that's when the passing game really needs to show up. Are we coming back down to earth tonight? It depends on where you were after last week. I do think, I actually felt pretty confident last week, and they win. The two times I felt very confident, they won. This one I wouldn't say is one of those very confident games. I'm not expecting to win, but I do think I'm expecting them to be fairly competitive, which is all I'm kind of asking for. I think getting the Ravens, who are desperate to win while getting Lamar back, is one of the toughest matchups you'll probably find at this point in the season. But I think the Dolphins offense can do what they did last week. I do think they can. I think the defense, it will be very difficult for them to do what they did last week. I do think they will commit to stop the run. I think the difference between the Ravens offense, though, is getting Lamar back adds an extra element to your running game. Just it's not Kirk Cousins. He can run the ball. He, can't focus as heavily on the running back. I do think, this is what I think I'm expecting for Henry. I think Henry is going to do kind of what he typically does, which is a lot of his runs, a vast majority will go for 2 yards or less. That's typically what Derrick Henry does. It's a lot of 2 yards or less runs, but as soon as he gets a lane to work with, he'll get some big ones. And that's kind of what the Dolphins are doing all season. A lot of stops in 2-3 plays a game where they just get absolutely gashed. So hopefully on the plays they get gashed by Henry, they can limit those from, being 50-yard touchdowns and hold them to 10, 12, 15-yard runs. That will be a big key to the game to, for the defense, because I don't know if they'll find as much success this week as they did last week. Yeah, Kyle, I think Lamar is going to be pretty healthy. He's back to full. He was already full last week, but I think they really held him back to make sure he got to 100%. So I think the Dolphins are going to get at least close to 100% Lamar, which is obviously a lot of problems. Now, the Dolphins have beaten the Ravens before with Lamar. They've done it twice, actually, though, the one where, Tua's craziest game in Baltimore, where he threw for 6 touchdowns. And then the other game where we ran cover to 0 every snap. Tua didn't even start that game. It was Brissett, and then he came in later. So it's not like we haven't beaten the Ravens with Lamar, but Lamar has always had very good games against Miami. Extremely good games. So, I'm for the Dolphins to win, I think they'd have to score a lot of points. A lot of points. And like they're really healthy now too. The Ravens, I don't think anyone on their no one the only people that are missing games are on the IR, and really their only big IR player that's definitely like a huge loss. Well, they have a couple, but like Madubuike is like the big one. That's something to keep an eye on. I also want to talk a little about the trades. So a lot of people, there's been a lot of reports over the last couple of days that the Dolphins aren't going to be they're not going to be big sellers. People do still expect us to trade one of Phillips or Chubb. For me, I'm hoping Chubb, because I don't see Chubb as a part of, I don't see a scenario where Chubb is a part of a long-term future for you. Also, Phillips is just much better than Chubb at this point. And Phillips, there is the injury concerns. Chubb also has injury concerns too. So I think for me, it's like Phillips is younger, better, and at least you have the opportunity to still keep Phillips as a long-term option. And if you don't keep him as a long-term option, then I guess, there's a decent chance you could get a comp pick for him. So Chubb, you wouldn't get really anything. So I would be down to trade Chubb. I saw Ricky tweeted out that he says the Cowboys and Niners are both expected to add defensive linemen. He said D-line. I mean, that could mean edge, depending on, what he's saying. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Chubb over Phillips. I think that just makes more sense, just based on age, their plays. Yeah, and I think tonight's game will also depend on the trade deadline a little bit as well. I think if they win, they become way less likely to trade. If they lose, they're probably, still going to make it. They'll definitely trade at least one of the edges. If they lose bad, then yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them be even bigger sellers than expected. Ricky also tweeted out that the Giants to Waddle thing was always fake news, which, I mean, I think we all knew that was never going to happen. Would have been very stupid to trade Waddle. It didn't even make sense. It's just no perspective that made sense, because it would have hurt you cap-wise as well. But yeah, let's get that's sort of the trade thing. I would definitely trade Chubb. Whatever you got for Chubb, best offer for Chubb, trade him. Phillips, I'm probably not trading, just because, unless you get a good offer. Phillips is one I trade if I get a good offer. If you don't get the right offer for it, just keep him and see what happens. You can then potentially re-sign him, because he's a very good player. If Phillips went into free agency, Phillips would be one of the top free agents, and maybe his price tag will be lower because of those injuries. Who knows? That is something to at least talk about. Another thing I saw was there's a rookie splash play thing, this rating, how many splash plays rookies have made, on the defensive side of the ball. Kenneth Grant actually he has a 6.6% splash rate out of all defensive rookies. That ranks him 17th. So, even though, Grant had his struggle, ranking 17th out of all defensive rookies ain't that bad. I mean, obviously you'd want to be a little bit higher, but with how slow his season started, I think Grant's starting to come along, which is nice. I don't know if you guys saw this, but John Saunders Jr. did get poached off the Dolphins practice squad the other day by the Patriots. Also, an interesting quote from John Harbaugh this week saying the Dolphins play a very physical brand of football on both sides of the ball. Never thought you'd hear that about Miami. Yeah, but what do you guys? How are you guys feeling about tonight's game? I wouldn't say my expectations have changed much after last week. I expect to see more fight out of Miami going forward. And I think if they were playing a lot of other teams, I would actually probably expect a win. But yeah, I don't know. I still think tonight will be a very different. They would have to, I think, have a lot go their way to pull this one off. Yeah, if we got three of them, how many would you start on a 6-man line? How many would start? Out of the 3 O-linemen? Honestly, that would help out the Dolphins offense tremendously if Jackson and Daniels come back healthy and actually play the rest of the season. I actually think the Dolphins offense would find a lot of consistency, because we know how important running the ball is, and I think Jackson and Daniels would add even a more consistent running game. And then that would allow you, I wonder who would be the 6th O-lineman. I wonder if it would still be Brunskill, because I guess you could make it Borum. You could make it, I mean, I don't think it would be strange. It would probably be Brunskill or Borum. Zay Flowers, homecoming against our depleted corners is scary. Yeah, Flowers is their best receiver. Definitely if the Dolphins like to run man. I don't think they can guard him in man. The Dolphins don't run a ton of man coverage. But Flowers, again, like if he was man versus our corners, yeah, I'd be scared. But also the Dolphins really haven't had that many problems with opposing teams' number one receivers. Like they haven't done anything against Miami in weeks. Like there was a couple guys that did well, obviously, like, Ladd had good games, but like Browns receivers did nothing, Falcons receivers did nothing. Maybe that's a turnaround, or maybe those guys were just bad. What's your max contract extension off to Phillips if he remains healthy this year? Oh, I think I saw the edge list. I don't know. It probably because these edges are getting paid like over $40 million a year now. And I saw like the people ranked in like the 25 mil range, like 26, 27. Like I feel like that would be pretty fair for what Phillips is, because I think Phillips was better than those guys ranked in like the 25, 26, 27 mil range, but the injury potential concerns. I don't know. I think there would have to be like, I'm not a contract expert or the cap expert, but I do think there'd have to be some sort of built-in maybe clauses with injuries that could at least help you, if there was major injuries, that help you kind of, mitigate that loss. But yeah, last week what was so important, and I think made me realize and confirm what I was thinking even more, is I've always been talking about this year with a lot of these players that have a lot of players on the Dolphins, a lot of the rookies, a lot of players like Zach Sealer or Jordan Brooks or Chop Robinson, a lot of these guys who were some of your better players last year that had, maybe games where they weren't as good this season. I think it just made me realize like so much, like how opportunity and situations matter so much. The Dolphins have just been put in like, they put their players in really poor positions, and their opportunities and like the situational play has been very difficult for them. But then I think, this Falcon games, it shows you like, hey, these guys are put in very, very good spots, and a lot of them played way better. Trader got put in a good position where like in the secondary, we got to make some plays on the ball where we haven't had a chance all season. He made big plays. Chop was getting pressures when he was in a position to actually get pressures because they got third and longs. Kenneth Grant looked better as a pass rusher. Jonah still having his struggles, but didn't have as many big negative plays because they weren't in third and long situations. Just makes you realize like a lot of players' performances really just come down to situations and opportunities. Oh, shout out Flem, 199 super chat. Appreciate you, my guy. Waddle's expectations and Nate Wiggins thoughts. I have big Waddle expectations tonight. Big. I think that the Ravens run a lot of man-to-man. And personally, like I don't think Wiggins is bad or anything, but I don't think like if they leave Waddle with one-on-one with Higgins, like they're playing cover one, like I don't think Wiggins could keep up with Waddle all night. Might win a couple reps, but I think Waddle would cook him. Like if you watch last week versus the Bears, like the Ravens won that game, but Rome Odunze was open all day long. He was open all day long. I think Waddle can get open all day long against that secondary, personally. Is JMJ back in the slot? That is, yeah, so a couple questions here, but yeah, shout out Flem. Big expectations for Waddle. Hog Dog, is Trader moving into a starter role? My guess is he'll still play in the 3 safety sets and he'll play around what he's been playing. I don't know if they're going to, but Ashton Davis is out tonight, so I do think Trader will probably play a little bit more snaps than usual. But I don't know if he'll move into like a full-on starter role yet, but I do think he'll play a lot. And then is Jason Marshall Jr. back in the slot? My guess is not right away. I guess he could. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays some tonight, but I do think the Dolphins will still run more 3 safety looks than play nickel, because the Dolphins have not been playing a ton of nickel. And honestly, with like Storm Duck now out for the season, I would like to see some Ethan Bonner and Jason Marshall Jr. on the outside a little bit. Sneak them in there. I think at some point this season, you got to get Jason Marshall Jr. back out on the field just to see what you have. Maybe not tonight. Maybe have to rush him back into it. But I do think I want to see him out there, whether it's inside or outside, get him some work eventually. But yeah. Yeah, like here's one of the plays, actually. This is a play from yesterday where you get to see, or not yesterday, but last week. Chop and Grant versus 2 veteran O linemen, like getting quick pressure. Like Grant really collapsing the pocket versus Lindstrom, and this is where Douglas makes a big play at third down. Chop rushing off the right edge. Chop has been playing more right defensive end recently, too. I still think he feels more comfortable on the left side, but I think him playing more on the right side makes me feel more confident that they feel better moving off of Chubb, because Chubb typically plays right defensive end. You're saying Strange over Eichenberg or Jonah? What do you mean? Saying Strange over Eichenberg or Jonah? My guess is I think it would be Jackson at right. If everyone came back healthy, I think Jackson would start at right tackle, Daniels would start at right guard, Brewer at center. I think they would still keep Jonah at left guard, and I think they would keep Paul at left tackle. And then I think the 6-0 lineman, if they run the 6-0 lineman, I'm guessing they would just still keep Brunskill, because Brunskill is like the only one on the O-line that has that 6-0 man line experience. He's done it in different games, like he did it with the Titans, I believe. And he's also got like the athleticism for it. I don't think Strange would start if everyone was back healthy. Then what else? Yeah, Judon's another one that I wouldn't be surprised if they either just cut or like maybe trade him at the deadline. But if they traded him at the deadline, it would be like Judon and they gave up a 7th and get back a 6, something like that. They would not get much for Judon. I could see some other trades like that. Like I would be down to trade like Zach Wilson if someone offered anything for Zach Wilson. I don't know if they actually would. But trades for some players that are not long-term pieces. Because you don't have many long-term options on the roster anyway, so keep the guys that have potential to be long-term. Like Phillips has potential to be long-term, but I also like if they don't plan to re-sign Phillips, then yeah, trade him. But if you think there's a possibility you can re-sign Phillips, then don't trade him unless you get blown away, which I doubt they're going to get like a blown away offer for Phillips because of the injury stuff. I need another tight end. Oh, tight end will be huge in the offseason. I've been trying to add a tight end to this roster. That's why, like, the Dolphins, like, you don't need to, like, the 6-0 line thing definitely helped. But imagine the Dolphins offense with just a all-around stud tight end. It gives you so much versatility. Because then you could block like you got 6-0 lineman. That tight end, if he's out there and he's like a really good blocker. But also that guy is a receiving threat, and teams have to respect that, and they have to come out and play like, oh, we have to decide, do we want to come out in nickel? Do we want to come out in base? We come out with 3 linebackers because we can't stop the run because they have this, beast of a tight end, but how did tight end Greg D look? I wouldn't say there wasn't really any takeaways to have for Dulcich. He didn't play that much. He ran a few routes, didn't really get many opportunities to block either. So really not many takeaways for Dulcich in that game. Same with Rucci. They both played like in garbage time, and they both played like a handful of snaps early. I think Rucci played like 4 or 5 snaps before like the backups came in. And I actually thought Rucci in those 4 snaps like had some effective blocks. So I wouldn't mind seeing more of Rucci as like an inline guy while Julian Hill's still out. Because, he's really the only inline tight end on the roster. That's why they went to 6-0 linemen. Julian Hill is out, and all the other tight ends are more like F tight ends, receiving, more receiving guys first. Rucci's the only one that is more of a blocker, so I wouldn't mind getting Rucci some more looks because he looked more comfortable than I expected. It is a very small sample size. That's why I would want to see, potential a little bit more. But yeah, opportunity is everything for a lot of these players. I want to see more Chop Robinson. That's a big reason I would like to trade Chubb as well. Like Chop needs to be on the field more. Like you're limiting his touches, and he's flashing a lot in his limited touches, but he's just not getting enough opportunities to really showcase his full talent. He even mentioned in an interview this week that, the more snaps he's played, it feels like he can get into more of a rhythm. So the limited snaps has kind of hurt his chances to like get a rhythm in game and, get a feel, set things up. Because that's big. Sometimes for like edge rushers, you really want to set things up throughout the game. Like, you show this one move early, and you want to be able to build off of it later in a game to set up that offensive tackle. But you don't really get to do that when you're only playing, 30, 40% of the snaps. I think the 6-0 line translates to another great Tua game. I mean, it can. I don't think the 6-0 line in the Falcons game is necessarily why Tua had a better game. I think it definitely helped. Just being able to commit and have more of a run-first offense is kind of the key. And if that means you have to use 6 linemen, then you got to use 6 linemen. And I think just the way the Dolphins' offensive play calls operate, a lot of the routes they run, they'll have a lot of, they thrive off play action. And off of play action, they run a lot of two-man route concepts. So that means your tight end a lot of the times is staying into pass protect off those play action stuff. He might leak out late, but you don't really need those eligibles anyways. That's why I think they should have been running 6 linemen earlier, especially last year when your tight ends couldn't block to save their lives. This year Julian Hill's been better, but he's obviously out. But even when Julian Hill returns, I think they should still keep the 6 lineman thing because you can run 6 line with Julian Hill out there as well. It just adds, you might even be able to create more movement up front. You really see us buying it all before the deadline? I would be surprised if they bought Phil. Now, maybe if one of the players they are selling is traded for a player, I guess that's a possibility. Like if they traded Chubb for someone straight up rather than a pick, maybe someone who is younger and they thought could be long-term, I guess that's something they could do. Let's ask does Brunskill have good hands? I don't know. Let's throw him the ball, though. Why not? Why not throw Brunskill a pass down in the red zone off play action, Can I bet on an O-line touchdown tonight? Let's get Judy to Miami. Judy's been really bad this year. He's been rough. I don't think the Dolphins need Judy. The Dolphins need to add a receiver in the offseason that really complements Waddle. So more of a possession, bigger body, guy who can play with some physicality, type of player, strong-handed, maybe you can throw up some fades too. I think that would be probably the right move this offseason. But yeah, we'll see. Of course, the Dolphins, they win the one game and they got the Thursday right after it, so it's a quick week. Can't enjoy it too much, So we gotta, hopefully they can win this. Then it's gonna be a long week of dealing with the loss if they lose, and we'll make some videos still. We'll do some draft stuff, do some streams. Yeah, Elijah Surratt, if they wanted to, he's that type, definitely works. I don't know if he would come right away and be a number 2, but he is the type I would be looking for. Yeah. Damn. Yeah, do you think so? Yeah, since Ricky said the Cowboys and Niners are both expected to add defensive linemen before Tuesday's trade deadline, do you think either of them are trading for one of the Dolphins' edges? I think it's a possibility. Both NFC teams, I feel like, usually when you make a trade, it's more often to the opposite. It's definitely not an in-division trade, and then it's usually not all the time, but you like to make a trade to different conferences. Yeah, I don't like that either, Kyle. I would like to see Taj out there. Last week, Taj was inactive, and they had Cedric Wilson out there. I would like to see Taj over Cedric Wilson. I expect NWI to be that compliment. Have you watched his routes in depth? Curious why he hasn't made more of an impact in the passing game. Willing to do the dirty work. Let's get him the ball. I do think he will get more and more involved as the season went on. But right now, I think they're more compliments and they're more Malik and NWI are more wide receiver 3/4. So I don't see them as true wide receiver 2s. Either of them. They can play in that role, and that's you drafted Malik in the 6. NWI is on a very cheap contract. I think it's fair for them to be receiver /4. That's kind of what they were brought here to be. And I like them in that role, so I think it's understandable, at least in my mind, why they haven't gotten full on great games. But I would like to see NWI get more red zone work. especially now with Waller out for a while, because we didn't need it last week because we scored. But I would like to see NWI get some red zone targets. What do you think Weave is cooking to neutralize Lamar? I wonder if he's going to have Phillips spying, because Phillips spied Kirk Cousins a couple times last week, and obviously he's not worried about Cousins' mobility, but he had Phillips just reading it, and then he would break once the quarterback kind of committed. I wonder if they'll have Phillips spy Lamar, because Phillips is very athletic, and if he can read it fast and get on him early before he gets out to space, he can make some plays. So I wonder if that would be something they do. I wasn't happy that we lost Saunders off the practice squad. I feel like he deserved a spot on the roster. Yeah, I'm sad to see Saunders go, but maybe they didn't want to elevate him. Maybe they thought, they didn't want to move off of somebody, but who knows? I think the best thing is that Trader really showed up last week, and that's potentially huge for the future. Dolphins, that's what a lot of this season's about. What you can get out of some of these young guys. The Chiefs, yeah, the basically the defense that slowed down Lamar this year. They got a lot of pressure on Lamar, but they did a very good job playing with high effort and maintaining their rush lanes. So the big thing is they stopped the throws down the field. There was nowhere for Lamar to throw it, but when Lamar did have to take off, they were smothering him. So I think one of the keys is probably finding a way to maybe bracket Zay Flowers, and then hopefully you can cover up everyone else man to man, because they don't have a lot of other guys on the roster that are big man beaters than Zay Flowers. So you want Lamar to then drop his eyes and have to take off, and then you need your guys to be really good discipline-wise. You have to work your stunts and be exactly where you need to be with the right timing on stunts, because if your stunts are off by a split second, Lamar will make you pay. But that's usually how you get athletic QBs, is you work stunts. The QB thinks he has free space, and then your D lineman or your edge loops around right in his face, and he sees the last second, and now he doesn't have the room to work with that he was expecting. The Dolphins have had struggles doing that in the past, so I don't know how effective that will end up being. Yeah, Ravens are healthy. They are quite healthy. Yeah, very difficult to actually execute versus Lamar. Unfortunate. I would have liked to see, Huntley. Huntley actually played good for them last week, but I would feel much more confident going against Snoop. Dolphins would be, I think, a little more prepared for that one. Haven't heard the name Malachi Stark since draft night. Yeah, I think he's had some struggles for them. But yeah, their secondary has some names, but and they're not bad. They have a pretty good some names in it, but I still don't think any of those guys cover man to man versus Waddle. Then we run a lot of, yeah, dude, that one Thursday night game many years ago with Brian Flores, we ran cover 0 almost every snap. Now, the next time we played them, we tried to do the same thing, and Lamar clearly had found the adjustment to it. So I don't think it quite works that way. It would work that way anymore. But yeah, we ran so many times against them. Do they have any D linemen? I believe, yeah, Travis Jones is a good player. But I don't think their pass rush has been necessarily as good this season. I think they started a rookie linebacker, Teddy Buchanan. Remember him from Cal? He plays. They got Roquan, obviously. Wasn't last year when week 8 in the dog? Yeah, the defense did turn play a lot better in the second half of last year. So we'll see if that can kind of. Are you buying the Patriots winning the division? I would probably still put money on the Bills. think it'll be close though. But yeah, any other questions? Because I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Trade wise, game wise, what I'm expecting. You know, what the Dolphins did last week. Here's some of the, check out all the videos I made this week. Here's some trader clips. Looked really good in coverage last week. Playing with instincts, playing with range. Good adjustments. I liked seeing this, you know. He was one of my favorite rookies they drafted. I mean, out of the late round rookies, the guys that I liked the most, which were Phillips, Trader, and Gordon, they have been the most productive out of the later round guys. I mean, some of those most productive overall. Obviously, you know, you got to put probably Grant in there as well. Yeah. Weaver does come from Baltimore. Did we play? Wait, did we play Baltimore last year? So I guess we haven't faced them with Weaver yet, huh? Because I think the last time we played them was 2 years ago. Yeah, we both run very similar defensive schemes though. So both offenses should have familiarity with the scheme they're going against. Sometimes that can definitely be a difference. Yeah, hopefully we can get some sacks. Because in the past, when the Dolphins have been getting pressure recently, but not sacks because quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball early, Lamar will hang on to it. You might be able to get sacks on Lamar. The problem with trying to sack Lamar is he will hang on, but he will be very elusive. So you got to be disciplined. Yeah, I think tonight will be relatively close. That's my guess. I don't think. I mean, it could be a blowout, but my guess it will be relatively close. And the unfortunate part is the Dolphins have lost all the close games. Yeah, Kyle Hamilton, very good player. Probably the best player on that team, defensive wise. Probably second best player on the team after Lamar. Trade for players or picks? Picks. Like if they should be with your record, you should be more selling than buying. And if you're selling, trade for picks. Unless you get a player that you think is like, oh, this could be someone we can at least make a roll for long term. But yeah, I still think for the rest of the season, my main focus is the young guys continuing to develop. Just continuing this path. I think a lot of them, you know, you're still going to see your rookie struggles, but how can they bounce back from that? Because we just saw Trader had that big missed tackle at the end of the Chargers game, bounced back and had probably the strongest rookie performance of the season for Miami against the Falcons. So let's see if he can build off of that. Is Tua going for 3 picks or 3 tutties? I mean, yeah, it is true. It's usually one or the other, right? Like if he's throwing picks, it ends up being 3. If he's throwing touchdowns, it ends up being 3. Yeah, it's not a bad guess, Greg. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it hits the over. Because the Ravens have also given up a lot of points. I think like 4 out of their 6 games or something like that. They've given up like 30 plus. Strange that we aren't seeing Quinn being tested as number 2. You want to see what we got? Yeah, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter who's the number 2 unless Tua gets injured. But it seems like it's a back and forth thing. I'm guessing Zach is getting it back to back just because this is a short week. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Quinn again later on once it's like longer weeks, actual battles happen. You think we're gonna be able to run on Baltimore? I think they can. I think they can have a similar offensive performance that they did last week. Like, not a great running game, but a good enough one. Because last week, like, they ran the ball a lot, but they didn't have like a great running game. Like, numbers wise, like yards per carry, it wasn't like anything special. But like, as long as it can be serviceable, which I think it can be, and you can control the game, then that I think would open up the pass game. Run Gordon more. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting Gordon some more work, especially if it's like gap scheme stuff, getting Gordon more work. I don't know. I wouldn't like Gordon running on like outside zone. Keep that for H-An. I still think, H-An's very easily your best running back, but I wouldn't mind mixing it up and getting even Jalen Wright some touches. I thought Jalen Wright ran as hard as I've seen him last week. Like, he was running hard when he got the ball. I think he's very motivated because he hasn't played this year really at all. It's more on the O-line, the RB. Yeah, I agree. That's why, like, I think the offense could actually be pretty consistent if they got Jackson and Daniels back. Any surefire bets worth placing? I feel pretty confident about Waddle tonight. I mean, there's never a surefire, but I feel pretty good about Waddle. Yeah, right. That could be a shopping thing. It's something that I was like, hey, you play right to either see what you have and also potentially get buyers for him, Because if he plays well, then you either keep him or his value will be, a little bit higher. Also, when should we try Theo Weiss? I think we still got to get to like, Taj Washington. I mean, I don't know if he'll ever get a chance this season, to be honest. Malik, yeah, I would like to see Malik get more work down the field. Jordan Brooks, one of the Dolphins' best players. Absolute stud. Definitely one of the guys I would be trying to build around long term. Yeah, anything is possible. Maybe they carry that momentum. Anything's possible. Flowers over for sure. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm not convinced is that the last 2 weeks, the Dolphins have not really given up anything to opposing teams' top receiver options. Like, they've had like no yards. And obviously one was Darnell Mooney, and the other one was, Jerry Jeudy in bad weather. It's just hard for me to predict that bounce back. What's your score prediction? Oof, I don't know. I don't really like doing predictions, to be honest. I don't know. I would guess like Ravens score low 30, Dolphins score mid 20s ish. Yep. Yeah, the D line was very good versus the run last week. That's why I've also like been nervous because I see a lot of people betting on Derrick Henry. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Henry gets a couple big, like, nice runs. But I think most of the game, the Dolphins are going to kind of shut him down. It's just like on the plays they don't shut him down, how far does he go for? Does he get, that 50-yard run? Because the last 2 weeks, that's pretty much what's happened. Bijan got completely shut down. Judkins was shut down except for his 40-yard run. He had a 40-yard run, but outside of that, like, he was averaging, even with the 40-yard run, he was averaging 3 yards a carry. Jordan Phillips rolling on turf, making tackles. He's the nose tackle going forward. I mean, yeah, he'll probably still play the similar amounts of snaps that he's been playing. He's actually been playing even more 3-tech recently because on early downs they have, Bates, they'll have Benito as the nose, and then Phillips will play 3-tech. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. You still believe Jalen Wright is RB2? What do you mean? I mean, he hasn't been RB2. He would have been RB2 at the start of the season if he wasn't injured. Like, it's just how it works. It's just he was injured first week, and then Ollie took the job, and then Wright's never got it back. I always said Jalen Wright is bad. Well, I mean, I don't think he's bad still, to be honest. He hasn't even had a chance to play. Sometimes with players, it's about opportunity. And I think it gets proven every single week. Tell those points to get ready for power card. Yeah, Pickle knows what he's talking about. That might be the biggest difference maker in the game is he's back healthy for the Ravens. That might be why Derrick Henry goes crazy is power card's back. Because I think last week was the first week he's played for them, at least in a while. And that guy is a difference maker. Any idea what happens to money tied up if he decides to retire? No. Is Tua throw for over 200 yards? Yes, 10 yards, yes or no? I would say most likely. I don't think the Ravens have like a great secondary, and if the Dolphins are down a lot, then Tua's going to throw a lot. So I feel like either way, he goes probably over that, unless he has a really, really bad game. Yeah. It's an underrated part of the game, power car. You think a different first round pick would be a difference in record this season? Probably not. I don't think one player has been the difference in your losses, really. Okay, I'm betting 10 G's. You do that, man. Is the weather good tonight? I actually don't remember what the... Why is Chop not playing close to last year? We all thought he will be better. I would say the same reason we talked about Jalen Wright. Opportunities. He's just getting limited opportunities. If you watch Chop, he looks like the exact same player to me, to be honest. Like, I'm watching Chop every snap. He looks explosive. He looks powerful. He's just playing less snaps. And when he is in there, the Dolphins have not gotten to a lot of third and longs. They have not gotten in situations where your pass rusher thrives. So I think it's literally just opportunities. Because when he's gotten the opportunities, he's looked good. So that's why I would like to move on from Chubb. Weather good tonight, clear. Okay, that's what I thought. So I expect there to be a decent amount of throwing. I mean, yeah, Chop was pretty good last week versus Falcons. Had some very clean wins. He's just still playing less than 50% of the snaps. Yeah. 80 and nice. Weather 70, 10 mile per hour wind, no rain. That's what I like to hear. Because the Dolphins suck in poor weather. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, any final questions before we head out? Hoping for at least a fun game tonight. Yeah, just chilling at home. I don't really I prefer to watch the game at home than go out. Or even going to games. Like, I prefer watching him on TV than going to games. I feel like NFL games are more fun to watch on a TV. College games might be more fun to go to in person. At what point are you going to agree that Jonah was a bust? I mean, Jonah's been bad this season, but I will never call a player a bust less than a year into his playing career. So it doesn't matter what the player is. Even if I didn't like them, like if it was a player I hated pre-draft, I would not call them a bust 8 games into their career. It's just really, what's the right word? Maybe like naive or ignorant to call someone a bust that early. Personally, I'm not going to do that. And Jonah was the one that I had most concern about out of like the draft picks, at least the guys that I liked. I would never have traded up for him. I'm on record saying that multiple times. And I even said, like, I thought Grant, like, before the season started, I said Grant would develop as it went on. And I said Jonah would take more time, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't quite develop that much in his first year. Now, he's definitely been worse than I thought, but it's not like, yeah, premature, Greg. That's a better word. I think he'll be good. I mean, I have concerns with Jonah getting to that level, but yeah, premature is a much better word. uh, but I always thought Jonah wouldn't really see a better version of him until year 2, anyways. So I feel like I would be going against myself by calling Jonah a bust already when I thought he would take time. Yep, sometimes they need time. And we saw a lot of I would say a lot of them had their best games last week because, team around them start playing better, they start playing better. Things go hand in hand sometimes. Quick hot take about Cleveland. Are you benching Gabriel? I mean, I don't know what I'm doing in Cleveland, to be honest. I mean, I don't think Gabriel's your answer, so I don't think he'll ever be a starting level quarterback. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, if I was them, I just think they hate Shedeur Sanders. Like, I think that staff never wanted Shedeur. So I don't even think they're going to give him a fair shot. But even then, I'm not a fan of any of them. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'm going to wait really until I get my general, because I think if next year I don't see any sort of develop from him, like he looks the exact same, then I'd be very concerned. Right now I have some concern. Yeah, hit that like button. Thank you, Balake. But yeah, I'm probably going to end there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully we at least get a good game, good performance. Want to see some of the young guys show up. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys